Absolutely. I will take your story and expand it into a much longer, more detailed narrative, as you requested, adding an engaging beginning, interactive questions, and a profound ending. I will also change the names, locations, and ages as we discussed. The man on the rainy sidewalk. The chilly drizzle of a London morning kissed Amelia's cheeks as she stood on the pavement, shifting her weight from one foot to the other to stay warm. The tiny bundle in her arms, little Oliver, stirred beneath his blue blanket, his small fists peeking out. She adjusted his hat, her fingers trembling slightly. She wasn't sure if it was the cold or the memories that threatened to surface. The city streets were just beginning to wake. The hum of traffic and the glare of headlights created a quiet symphony that contrasted with the storm brewing in Amelia's chest. The last year had been a brutal journey. Solo motherhood hadn't been part of her plan, but she was adapting. For Oliver, she would do anything. She looked up as the familiar roar of a sleek black luxury car approached. Her heart did a strange little skip, and a shiver, not from the cold, ran down her spine. She recognized the car immediately. The personalized license plate was unmistakable. The door opened, and out stepped Marcus Thorne, the CEO of Thorne Industries, and the man who had once promised her the world. He looked as impossibly polished as ever, his dark suit hugging his tall frame, his short black hair slicked to perfection. The same storm-gray eyes that used to soften when he looked at her now scanned the pavement with a distant indifference. But then his gaze landed on her. For a moment, time seemed to splinter. The noise of the traffic faded. The drizzle stopped. There was only the two of them, standing on opposite shores of an abyss they had both created. His eyes drifted to the bundle in her arms. Oliver moved, letting out a soft gurgle. Marcus's eyebrows knitted in confusion, and then something else flashed in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps even panic. Amelia. His voice was low, cautious, as if he feared speaking her name would shatter an illusion. Amelia's throat tightened. She held Oliver closer, her fingers curling protectively around him. Marcus? She said his name like a closed door. He took a step closer, his polished shoes barely making a sound on the wet pavement. He stared at the baby, then back at Amelia. Is that your son? She forced herself to meet his gaze, her brown eyes hardening. Yes, her voice was clipped. My son? A muscle in Marcus's jaw twitched. His eyes searched her face for answers she wasn't willing to give. I didn't know you had a baby. You wouldn't, she said, her tone icy. You left a year ago. Remember? The accusation hung between them like a sharp, biting frost. Marcus's eyes clouded with a mix of guilt and confusion. He took another step forward. His voice softened. Amelia, I didn't what? She cut him off, her voice trembling. Didn't intend to disappear for a year, to leave me waiting, wondering if you even cared after 5 years together. Marcus winced. He opened his mouth to reply, but no words came out. What could he say? His reasons, whatever they were, felt empty now. Amelia's gaze fell to the ground. Her jaw was tight. She had practiced this confrontation 100 times in her head, but the reality was messier. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. It doesn't matter anymore. I've moved on. We've moved on. The bus approached, its brakes hissing as it came to a stop. She adjusted Oliver's blanket and took a step toward the open door. Amelia, wait, Marcus said, his voice laced with desperation. Are you married? Her eyes darted back to his, her expression inscrutable. Yes. Marcus's face fell, his shoulders slumping slightly. He nodded, his jaw tight. I see. But something in his eyes didn't quite match his composed exterior. A suspicion, a flicker of doubt. He watched her climb the steps of the bus, the baby clutched tightly in her arms. The door closed and the bus pulled away, leaving Marcus standing on the cold, damp pavement. The icy wind cut through his coat. but he barely felt it. His mind was a tempest of questions. He replayed the image of the baby, the dark curls peeking from beneath the hat, the curve of his tiny nose. Something nagged at the edges of his mind. The baby's eyes. For a fleeting second, he could have sworn they were the same storm gray color as his own. Marcus Thorne stood on the cold pavement long after the bus disappeared from sight. His hands were clenched in his pockets, the wind whipping past him like a cruel whisper. The chill on his face was nothing compared to the freezing realization sinking into his chest. Amelia was married. She had a son, and she had moved on without him. He shook his head, trying to clear the fog in his thoughts. Why did this bother him so much? He had made his decision a year ago. To leave, to focus on the relentless demands of his company, to bury himself in work and ambition. He had convinced himself it was the right, the necessary choice. But now the image of Amelia, holding a baby with eyes that looked eerily familiar, gnawed at his resolve. Storm gray eyes like his. No, he muttered to himself. It's not possible. But the seed of doubt had already taken root. He knew he wouldn't be able to shake it. He needed answers. He turned abruptly and walked back to his car, sliding behind the wheel. His fingers gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary. For a long moment he just sat there, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The man staring back looked powerful, confident, in control. The very image he had worked so hard to maintain. But beneath that facade, a storm was brewing. He started the engine and drove away, his mind racing. He needed to find Amelia. He needed to know the truth. Hours later, Marcus sat in his spacious corner office at the top of Thorne Industries, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city skyline. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his mahogany desk, but he barely noticed. His focus was on the screen in front of him. He had asked his assistant, Liam, to pull up information on Amelia's whereabouts over the past year. Every click of the mouse brought a new detail, a new reminder of the life he had chosen to leave behind. Amelia had moved to a modest apartment in a quieter part of town. She had taken on freelance design projects, juggling work with taking care of her baby. The records were sparse, but one thing was clear. There was no sign of a husband, no marriage license, no shared addresses, no wedding photos. The declaration she had made at the bus stop, that she was married, was a lie. A cold knot formed in his stomach. Why would she lie to him? And if she was lying about that, what else was she hiding? His phone buzzed, jolting him from his thoughts. He looked at the screen. His sister. Eleanor. He hesitated before answering. Eleanor had always been the one person who saw through his walls, and he wasn't sure he was ready for her insight at this moment. "Hello," he said. His voice tight. "Marcus, are you okay?" Eleanor's voice was warm and worried. "You sound off." He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. "I ran into Amelia today." There was a pause. "Oh," she said, her voice low. "She had a baby, and she told me she's married." Another silence stretched between them. "Do you believe her?" He opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. "I don't know. The baby's eyes, they look just like mine." Eleanor's breath hitched. "Do you think he could be yours?" "I don't know what to think," he said, running a hand through his hair. "But I can't just let it go. I need to know the truth." "Then ask her," Eleanor said softly. "You deserve to know. And if he is your son, he deserves to know you." Her words struck a chord deep inside him. He had spent so long burying his feelings, convincing himself that leaving was the right thing to do. But maybe he had been wrong. Maybe he had been running from something, from someone, far more important than he had realized. "Thanks, Elle," he said quietly. "I'll figure it out." "You always do," she replied. "Just be careful. You're not the only one who can get hurt." He ended the call and looked at his reflection in the window. The skyline blurred as his thoughts swirled. He needed to see Amelia again. He needed answers. And this time, he wouldn't let her push him away. The next morning, Amelia was in her tiny kitchen, swaying slightly as she cradled Oliver. The baby cooed, his dark lashes brushing his chubby cheeks. She smiled at him, but her heart felt heavy. Running into Marcus had stirred up a whirlwind of emotions she thought she had buried. The pain, the betrayal, the lingering love, it all came rushing back, and the lie she had told him weighed on her like a stone. "I've moved on. We've moved on. I'm married." Why had she said that? Was it to protect herself? To protect Oliver from the chaos Marcus's return might bring? Or was it simply to hurt him, to make him feel the same rejection she had felt when he left? A knock on the door startled her. Her pulse quickened. She wasn't expecting anyone. She hesitated. Then she walked over and peered through the peephole. Her breath caught. It was him. Her fingers trembled on the doorknob. She considered not answering, pretending she wasn't home. But she knew Marcus too well. He wouldn't leave until he got what he wanted. With a sigh, she opened the door. Marcus was standing there, his expression unreadable. His eyes went to Oliver, then back to her. "We need to talk," Amelia swallowed. "There's nothing to say." "I think there is." His voice was firm, but not cruel. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. He walked in, his presence filling the small space. The scent of his cologne, clean, sharp, familiar, enveloped her, making her chest ache. He turned to face her, his eyes softening as he looked at Oliver. "What's his name?" "Oliver." A small smile touched his lips. "Oliver," he repeated, as if tasting the word. He looked up at her, his eyes searching. "He's mine, isn't he, Amelia?" Her breath hitched. Panic rose in her throat. "Why does it matter now?" "Because it matters to me." His voice was raspy. "I need to know." She held Oliver tighter. Tears stung her eyes. "You left Marcus. You made your choice." "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. And if he's my son, I want to be a part of his life." Her defenses crumbled. The pain and anger she had held onto for so long warred with the hope she didn't want to feel. She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, he's yours." Marcus closed his eyes, his shoulders trembling. When he opened them, tears glistened in their gray depths. He reached out, his hand hovering near Oliver's small fist. "Can I?" he asked softly. Amelia felt the tears streaming down her cheeks. Marcus touched Oliver's hand, and the baby's fingers curled around his thumb. A sob escaped her, and for the first time in a long time, Amelia saw the man she had fallen in love with, the man beneath the walls. "I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I never should have left." Amelia's heart completely broke. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time she saw a flicker of hope. And maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. The small room was heavy with emotion. The air was thick enough to drown in. Marcus's hand trembled slightly as he cradled Oliver's tiny fingers in his. Amelia wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, trying to steady her breathing. The truth was finally out, but with it came a wave of uncertainty. Oliver's eyes blinked up at Marcus, and for a moment the world shrank. Everything else, the pain, the betrayal, the unspoken years, faded into a silent hum. There was only this fragile connection, as delicate as a spider web, but unbreakable. Marcus broke the silence, his voice rough. "Amelia, I want to be in his life, in your life." He paused, his eyes pleading. "I need to fix this." Amelia's shoulders slumped. "It's not that simple, Marcus." "Why not?" His voice sharpened with desperation. "I know I messed up. I know I walked away when you needed me. But I'm here now. on, please. Just let me try. She shook her head, frustration clouding her expression. Do you think you can just waltz back into our lives and make everything okay with a few words? Her voice trembled. I spent a year feeling abandoned, raising Oliver alone, trying to figure out what I did to deserve that. I can't just forget that pain. Marcus's face contorted with regret. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me? She laughed bitterly. From what, Marcus? From love? From a life we could have built together? He clenched his jaw, his eyes flashing with a storm of emotions. From myself, he admitted. From the mess I was becoming. She stared at him, disbelief etched into every line of her face. That's not your decision to make. Amelia turned away, her arms tightening around Oliver. She felt like she was drowning, waves of anger and grief crashing over her. Marcus had been her anchor once, but now he was just a weight pulling her back into the depths. A gentle knock on his door startled them both. Amelia froze. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He looked at her, suspicion flickering across his face. Are you expecting someone? He asked. No, she said, her voice tight. Her heart pounded in her chest. She took a step toward the door, her mind racing. The knock came again, louder this time. Amelia swallowed and opened the door a crack. A man stood there, his expression tense, his jaw tight. His eyes, cold and calculating, passed over Amelia to land on Marcus. He was impeccably dressed, his suit tailored to perfection, his blonde hair slicked back. He radiated an air of control, the kind that made Amelia's stomach twist. Hello, Amelia, he said softly, his voice dripping with false warmth. I was wondering when you'd finally answer. Amelia's knuckles went white on the edge of the door. What do you want, Victor? Victor's smile tightened. You know what I want. Marcus stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Who is this? Victor's gaze swept over Marcus with a hint of disdain. I'm the man who's been helping Amelia stay afloat this past year. He glanced at Oliver, a smirk curving his lips. You didn't think you could hide forever, did you, Amelia? Marcus's body went rigid, his hands curled into fists. What the hell is going on? Amelia's voice trembled. Victor, please, not now. Oh, it's too late for not now, Victor said. His smile turned into a sneer. You owe me, Amelia, and I always collect. Marcus's eyes blazed with rage. He stepped between Amelia and Victor, his voice low and dangerous. I don't know what you think you have on her, but it's over now. Victor's eyes gleamed with malice. You think you can just waltz in and play the hero thorn? You have no idea what she's done, what she owes. Amelia's stomach clenched. The weight of the secret she had been carrying for months threatened to crush her. She had made a deal with Victor when things got desperate, a deal she regretted every single day. He had given her a loan when she needed it most, but the interest was more than just money. He wanted power, control, and he was tightening the noose. I've got this, my Marcus, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Please, don't get involved. No. Marcus turned to her, his eyes blazing. You don't have to handle this alone. Victor laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. She made her choice, Thorn. She can't walk away from this, and neither can you. Marcus's jaw tightened. Try me. Victor's smirk vanished. You have until the end of the week, Amelia, he said, his voice a threat wrapped in silk. Or you'll regret it. He turned and walked away, the echo of his footsteps fading in the cold morning air. Amelia closed the door with trembling hands. She felt her legs might give out. She leaned against the door, her eyes closed. Marcus reached for her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. Amelia, he whispered. What's happening? Tears slid down her cheeks. I borrowed money from him. I didn't have a choice. I had to take care of Oliver. He closed his eyes, guilt washing over him. Why didn't you come to me? She laughed bitterly. You weren't there, Marcus. I didn't even know where you were. He exhaled sharply, pain etched on his features. I'm here now, and we'll fix this. Together. She shook her head. It's not that simple. Then we'll make it simple." He took her face in his hands, his eyes fierce. "I won't let him hurt you, or Oliver." Her resolve broke. The walls she had built around her heart crumbled. For the first time in a year, she allowed herself to lean into him. The warmth of his touch chased away the cold fear that had gripped her for so long. But even as she clung to him, doubt whispered in her mind. Could she really trust him again? Could they really untangle the mess they had created? Oliver stirred in her arms, his small face peaceful. She kissed his forehead, a silent promise that she would protect him, no matter what. Marcus's eyes softened as he looked at Oliver. "We'll get through this," he said softly. "I won't let you face this alone." Amelia nodded, but the weight of Victor's threat lingered. The clock was ticking, and she knew they were running out of time. As Marcus wrapped his arms around her, she allowed herself a fragile hope. Maybe they could fix this. Maybe they could reclaim the life they had lost. But deep down, she knew the storm wasn't over yet. It was only just beginning. A ticking clock in the concrete jungle. Amelia felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders as she stared out the window, watching the winter sun struggle to break through the gray clouds. Oliver slept peacefully in his crib, oblivious to the chaos that threatened to unravel the fragile peace his mother had worked so hard to create. Marcus stood silently behind her, his gaze fixed on her back. The tension in the room was suffocating, a reminder of the storm brewing just outside their fragile bubble. Victor's threat was a dark cloud, looming closer and closer, and time was slipping through their fingers like sand. "We need to come up with a plan," Marcus said finally, his voice low and firm. Amelia turned to face him, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion and worry. "And what kind of plan do you have, Marcus? Victor won't back down just because you tell him to. He holds all the power here." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Not all the power. I have resources, Amelia. I can pay him off. We can make him go away." She shook her head, her fingers intertwined. "It's not just about money. Victor thrives on control. Even if you pay him, he'll find another way to control us." He took a step closer, his storm-gray eyes filled with determination. "Then we'll find something to use against him. Everyone has weaknesses, Amelia. We just need to find his." A spark of hope flickered in her chest, but it was quickly snuffed out by the cold grip of fear. "What if we can't?" "We will." His voice was resolute, his hands gently taking hers. "I promise you. We will." Amelia searched his face, looking for the man she used to trust with her whole heart. He was still there, beneath the layers of regret and guilt, and though her heart was guarded, a part of her desperately wanted to believe him. A soft cry came from the crib, and Amelia moved to pick up Oliver, holding him close to her chest. Marcus watched them, his eyes softening as he gazed at his son. The weight of all they had lost, and all they stood to lose, hung heavy in the air. "Let's go to my office," Marcus said quietly. "We can lay out our next steps there. It's safer than here." Amelia hesitated. Then she nodded. "Okay." The drive to Marcus's office was silent, the tension thick and palpable. Oliver dozed in his car seat, blissfully unaware of the storm surrounding him. Amelia watched the city blur past, her thoughts spinning. Every turn of the tires brought them closer to a confrontation she wasn't sure they were ready for. When they arrived at the imposing Thorn Industries building, Marcus helped Amelia out of the car, his hand lingering on her arm. She allowed herself to lean into his touch, just for a moment. It was a small comfort, a reminder that she wasn't facing this alone anymore. They stepped into the elevator, the mirrored walls reflecting their tense expressions. Marcus's jaw was set, his eyes fixed on the floor numbers as they ascended. Amelia took a shaky breath, trying to calm the storm inside her. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into the sleek modern office. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, the buildings bathed in the cold winter light. The space was immaculate, everything in its place, a stark contrast to the chaos of their current situation. Marcus placed Oliver's carrier on the leather couch, adjusting the blanket around him. Amelia sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Marcus sat beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. "We'll get through this," he murmured. "I swear it." Before Amelia could reply, the door burst open. Liam, Marcus's assistant, rushed in, his face pale and frightened. "Mr. Thorne, you have to see this." He handed Marcus a tablet, his hand shaking slightly. Marcus frowned and took the device, his eyes scanning the screen. The color drained from his face. Amelia's heart hammered as she leaned in to see what had shaken him. The screen displayed a news article, the headline glaring in bold. Thorne Industries Scandal. CEO linked to shady lender. Below the headline was a photo of Marcus and Victor, taken at some high-profile event years ago. The article was full of half-truths and innuendo, painting Marcus as a man embroiled in dangerous dealings. It was clear Victor had leaked the story, twisting the narrative to make it look like Marcus was complicit in his schemes. Marcus's hands trembled with barely contained rage. "That bastard!" Amelia's mind raced. This was exactly what Victor wanted. To destroy their lives. To ruin any chance of a future together. Panic bubbled up inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Marcus," she whispered. "What do we do now?" He took a sharp breath. His eyes hardened with resolution. "We fight." Before she could ask how, the door swung open again. This time, Victor strode in, his smirk smug and predatory. "Nice office, Thorne," he drawled, his eyes glinting with malice. "I thought I'd stop by to congratulate you on your newfound fame." Marcus stood up, his body a tense wire ready to snap. "You've gone too far, Victor." Victor's smile widened. "Oh, I don't think so. This is just the beginning." His gaze slid to Amelia, cold and calculating. "You should have listened to me, Amelia. Now you'll both pay the price." Amelia's hands curled into fists. "You don't control us." Victor laughed. "Don't I? The world thinks your golden boy here is in bed with me. His company will crumble, his reputation will be ruined, and you'll both have nowhere left to turn." Marcus's voice was like ice. "We'll expose you. The truth will come out." Victor's smirk faltered, just for a second. "It's over." Marcus seized the moment. "You're scared," he said softly. "You know that if we dig deep enough, we'll find something that can bury you." Victor's jaw tightened. "You won't have the chance." Suddenly, the door burst open again, this time revealing 2 uniformed police officers. Victor's eyes widened in surprise. "What is this?" he hissed. One of the officers stepped forward. "Victor Harrison, you are under arrest for extortion, blackmail, and fraud." Victor's face twisted with rage. "You set me up!" Marcus's eyes were cold steel. "You did that to yourself." As the officers cuffed Victor and led him away, Amelia's knees went weak. Marcus caught her, his arms strong and steady around her. "It's over," he whispered. "He can't hurt you anymore." Tears filled her eyes, a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and hope. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "We still have so much to fix." He took her face in his hands, his eyes shining with love and regret. "We'll fix it. Together." Amelia took a deep breath, feeling the weight finally lift from her shoulders. Oliver stirred in his carrier, and she smiled, running a finger over his soft cheek. For the first time in a long time, the path ahead didn't seem so dark. The truth in the aftermath, the city outside the window was now a canvas of gold and crimson as the sun began its descent. The air in Marcus's office, once thick with tension, was now filled with a quiet, fragile hope. Amelia sat on the couch, watching Oliver sleep, a sense of peace settling over her for the first time in months. Marcus was on his phone, speaking in hushed, business-like tones to his PR team, explaining the situation and detailing the plan to counteract Victor's smear campaign. He moved with a quiet, efficient energy, a marked contrast to the desperate man she had seen just moments ago. After he hung up, he sat next to her, his shoulder brushing hers. The intimacy was both comforting and unsettling, a ghost of their past, a promise of a future. "The article is being taken down," he said. "The legal team is preparing a full statement, and we're going to be transparent about everything. The loan, Victor's true nature, the blackmail. It's the only way to rebuild." Amelia nodded, her gaze fixed on the tiny hand of her son. "It won't be easy. People will still talk." "Let them," Marcus said. He reached out and gently stroked Oliver's cheek. The baby made a soft sound and nestled deeper into the carrier. "They can talk all they want. What matters is here. Us." He looked at her, his storm gray eyes now soft with a vulnerability she hadn't seen in a long time. "Amelia, I was a coward. I ran away when things got hard, thinking that if I could just build a bigger empire, I'd be strong enough to face anything. But all I did was build a gilded cage for myself." His voice broke slightly. "You were the most important thing, and I threw it all away." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes. His words were an apology she had craved for a year, but they couldn't erase the pain of raising Oliver alone. "It was a year, Marcus. A year of sleepless nights, of struggling to make ends meet, of wondering if I'd ever be enough for him. I had to be everything. Mom, dad, provider. And I was so afraid I would fail." He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "You never failed. You were everything he needed. You are everything he needs." They sat in silence for a long time, the weight of their unspoken history hanging between them. The city lights began to twinkle below, 1,000 tiny stars on a velvet tapestry. "What happens now?" Amelia whispered, her voice fragile. "We've solved one problem, but there's still so much." Marcus tightened his grip on her hand. "I'm not going anywhere. I want to be a father to my son, and I want to earn back your trust. I know it won't happen overnight. It might take years, but I'm willing to wait, to fight for you, for him, for us." He looked from her face to Oliver's sleeping form. A profound sense of responsibility and love, something deeper than ambition or power, settled over him. For the first time in his life, he felt truly grounded, truly a man. He had a family to protect, not just an empire to build. Amelia's heart, once a fortress, felt its walls begin to crumble. She looked at the man beside her, no longer the distant CEO, but the heartbroken man who had just admitted his biggest mistake. She saw his regret, his determination, and a fragile hope that mirrored her own. "I can't promise that the pain will disappear," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But maybe we can try to build something new, together." A small, genuine smile touched Marcus's lips. He leaned in and gently kissed her forehead, a promise whispered without words. As the city hummed below, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, they sat together, two people who had found their way back to each other through a storm. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it didn't feel like a lonely path. It felt like a journey they could take as a family. Interactive questions. How do you think Marcus's character has evolved throughout the story? Do you believe his newfound commitment is genuine, or do you think there's a part of him that will always be a workaholic? Amelia's forgiveness is crucial to the story. What actions, beyond an apology, do you think Marcus would have to take to truly earn her trust back? Call to action. The past is behind them, but a new life is just beginning. What is the first challenge you think Amelia and Marcus will face as they try to rebuild their family? Share your ideas, and let's imagine what their new beginning looks like.